Sound of an alarm clock followed by a sigh. Every morning it was the same story. Alarm at 5 a.m., coffee, shower, suit, tie. Out the door by 6. My name is Leo, and for the last 10 years my life was my work. I was a financial analyst, one of the best, or so they told me. I lived and breathed spreadsheets, market trends, and quarterly reports. My desk was my kingdom, my keyboard my scepter. I was the first one in, the last one out. I didn't just work hard. I worked until my vision blurred and the numbers on the screen started to swim. At first it was just a flicker, a shadow in the corner of my eye as I was staring at a stock ticker late into the night. I'd whip my head around, but there'd be nothing there. Just the empty, sterile silence of the office after everyone else had gone home. I'd shake my head, rub my eyes, and blame it on fatigue. Too much caffeine, Leo, I'd mumble to myself, not enough sleep. I'd take another sip of my lukewarm coffee and dive back into the data. But the flickers became more frequent. The shadows started to take shape. I'd be walking down the hallway and see a tall, slender figure duck into a doorway that I knew was just a solid wall. Or I'd be in a meeting, presenting a forecast, and see a face in the window just for a second looking in from 30 floors up. My heart would pound in my chest, but I'd just clear my throat and carry on, my voice not wavering. No one could know. It was a sign of weakness, and in my world, weakness was a liability. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I was running on maybe 3 hours of sleep over 2 days trying to close a massive deal. The pressure was immense. As I stared at my monitor, the numbers on my spreadsheet began to melt, dripping down the screen like black ink. Then they started to climb out. Tiny, stick-like figures made of pure data marching across my desk. They whispered stock prices and profit margins in a chorus of static. I pushed my chair back so hard it crashed into the cubicle wall. I was hyperventilating, sweat pouring down my face. One of the figures, now standing on my keyboard, turned to me. It didn't have a face, but I knew it was looking at me. And then it spoke, in a voice that sounded like 1,000 calculators crunching numbers at once. "You're failing," it hissed. That was it. I couldn't do it anymore. I stumbled out of my chair, grabbed my coat, and walked out of that building without looking back. I didn't even pack my desk. The next morning, instead of calling my boss, I called a therapist. Admitting I needed help was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It felt like admitting defeat. The therapist told me the figures weren't real. They were hallucinations, brought on by extreme stress, sleep deprivation, and burnout. My mind, in its desperate attempt to get my attention, had literally created monsters out of the very thing that was consuming me, my work. So I took a break, a real one. For the first time in a decade, I had no deadlines, no meetings, no spreadsheets. I was forced to just be. I walked in parks, I read books that had nothing to do with finance, I learned to cook. It was terrifying at first. The silence was deafening, but slowly I started to find myself again. The person who existed outside of the job title. I learned that my value wasn't tied to my productivity or the hours I logged at the office. The figures haven't come back. Sometimes when I feel the old pressure start to creep in, I remember them. I remember those little number men marching on my desk, and it's a stark reminder. A reminder to step back, to breathe, to live. I learned the hard way that the most important asset you can ever manage isn't a stock portfolio. It's yourself. And that's a bottom line you just can't afford to ignore.